Welcome to Uniting the Cults, another episode of Why is Everybody Stupid? This one's about why do you think it matters whether or not God exists? And I'm addressing it to Muslims, but this also applies to ex-Muslims who fear God. I think this would help them. So let me put it on the screen. So I say, I don't think it matters whether there's a God or not. In my understanding, the way I'm living my life works well if there's a God or if there's no God. I live my life in such a way where I'm good to others. I don't murder, rape, fraud, abuse. I try to do good manners. So if there's a God and if there's a heaven, I'm definitely going to heaven. And if there's no God, well, it doesn't matter. I live my life well. Can you explain your reasoning for why it matters that there's a God or not? Someone replied, and they already deleted their comment. What do you mean you'll go to heaven? You don't make the rules. You don't pray 5 times a day equals no heaven for you. So I say, you mean Islam's rules? Those are nonsense. You're right that I don't make the rules. I didn't make 1 + 1 = 2, but I know that 1 + 1 doesn't equal 3 because of the contradictions that would be introduced if that were the case, or if you were to try to consider 1 + 1 = 3. I think another thing this person says, I think another thing to consider is that a lot of these people believe morality doesn't exist outside of religion. They've never studied anything about atheistic morality, like anything related to utilitarianism or deontology. As an atheist, the biggest criticism of my beliefs I get is along the lines of, quote, atheists have no reason to be moral. Of course, doing the right thing is its own reward, but that's not very obvious for people who need consequences to motivate their behavior. Either they believe we're not capable of critical thought and therefore cannot make moral decisions, or they themselves are incapable of critical thought and can't understand why a person would want to live a good lifestyle without a punishment reward system. I slightly disagree with this person because when we do good things, that brings reward. It's not just that it's a reward in itself. It will bring reward. It's practical. This person replies to the question, because if someone tells you about God and you chose not to follow and bow down to him, you go to hell. Interestingly, it seems that if nobody ever told you about God and his messenger and you don't follow them, then you can still go to heaven instead of being tortured for billions of years. So the most horrible and most selfish thing you can do to someone is tell them about God and his prophet. This person says, not a Muslim, but the majority of people need something to cope with the certainty that they and everyone they love will die. So someone replies, tell me what's your purpose? Why are we in this world? Why us? Every human on earth has asked themselves these questions. The answer is simple, to worship their creator. This is why religion is a thing, because it doesn't make sense that we just spawned here on earth just like that and now we're living for nothing. So I say, if you're right, that means there's a God. But what's your reasoning about the rest of it? Why do you believe that if there's a God, then also we must worship him? And if there's a God, then also he made hell. And if there's a God, then also if you don't worship him, then you go to hell. Where did you get all that from? And they didn't reply. This person is explaining that for a Muslim, this is the way they think. But what I would say to any Muslim is, okay, so you believe in God, but why do you believe in the Islamic account of God? Like, just because there is a God, that doesn't mean Islam. And to be clear to everyone, my post isn't about Islam. My post is about, why do you care there's a God? It's a separate issue whether it's the Islamic account of God. This person says, you're right, existence doesn't matter. However, religion tends to bend a narrative surrounding God, and this is particularly seen in Islam's case. When religion comes knocking on your door and terms it God's will, then it does matter whether it actually exists or not. I said, if there was a God, he would be good, and so I would go to heaven because my morality works either way. So no, it doesn't matter. They said, that's not what I said. I don't know what they're talking about. I wasn't saying that is what you said. I was bringing it back to my point. This person is replying to my OP and they said something, and I brought it back to my OP. Like, I was saying their stuff is kind of off topic. This person says, out of curiosity, why would a God that exists have to be good by our standards? Why can't it be mean or maybe even indifferent about humanity? I said, it's the contradictions that are the issue. God can't have contradictions. What would be contradictory about an indifferent or mean God? Unless you have a specific kind of God in mind, one that would be good by definition, but it depends on the God in question. I don't see why some God that exists couldn't be evil or indifferent. So I say, everything has purpose. What would be the purpose of a God that is mean to us? What problem is it intended to solve? Whatever the answer to that question is, it's full of fucking contradictions. This person says, for Muslims, it does matter if God exists or not. And as for the reasoning saying, quote, if I'm a good person, I'll go to heaven. That is a false statement, since you will go to hell if you are a non-Muslim according to Islam, even if you are a good person. Christianity has the same concept. So I say, do you agree that their conception of good should be correct instead of nonsense? And that we must judge the goodness using reasoning, not, quote, God said so? This person didn't really reply. This person says, exactly, you can be a great charitable atheist, but if you reject the faith, you will burn in eternal hell for this. Except that's nonsense and doesn't need to be included with the God idea. If there's a God, that does not mean that there's a hell. I'm going to read this comment, but I'm going to do it in chunks by looking at my reply. They said, sorry, I know you asked a question, but I'd like to ask a question to your question. Oh, I said it's okay. What do you have to lose by believing there's a God? I don't even understand the question. I don't understand what people mean when they say that they choose to believe. I didn't choose to believe in gravity. I didn't choose to believe that 1 + 1 = 2. I looked at the ideas, the evidence, and then I believed based on that. And I can't choose to defy that. I don't even know what that means. Can you explain? I've heard people say I forced myself to believe. I don't know what the fuck that means. I want someone to explain it to me. I've never done it, or if I've done it, I didn't know I did it. Next part, they said, also, who is the judge of your actions? You? Humans are flawed. I think it matters because to me, God is a divine judge whose wisdom is greater than our human comprehension of what we deem just. So I reply, if God existed, yes, he would be omniscient. But do you think you can get information from this omniscient being? If not, your question doesn't make any sense. So please explain to me how you're getting information from the omniscient source. They said, if an innocent person can serve time in jail for being mistaken for someone else or for the color of their skin, I'd rather have the judgment of God decide if I'm a good person or not, because the perception and human judgment is sometimes flawed. They said, it's like saying, I'd rather have Santa Claus giving out presents to the good kids and not the bad kids, which is what Santa Claus claims, what the Santa Claus theory claims to do, according to parents who are lying to their kids about it. Quoting them again, example, someone rapes another person, what do you see? And they're just giving the example of somebody wrongly getting charged with rape or whatever. So I say, same logic for Santa. Santa knows which kids did good and which did bad. That doesn't mean Santa is real. People will say, well, innocent people are dying in this world and God is letting it happen. Well, I am a true believer that it doesn't end with this world and that there is an afterlife in which the innocent will get their justice. Okay, so this clarifies what he said earlier. When humans give incorrect convictions for like murder and rape on Earth, then those incorrect things get fixed in the afterlife. That's what he's saying here. So I say, so you believe in God because the belief makes you feel better? That's what they're saying here. It feels better to me that people are going to get their justice in the afterlife. They didn't give any reasoning for why it would be that way. They didn't give reasoning why there is an afterlife. They said, and lastly, there are so many things that my human mind just can't comprehend, such as how far is outer space, the afterlife, that I just can't fathom that there is not a creator. So I say, suppose there is a creator. What does that have to do with Islam or the idea that there's a heaven and hell? And also, this is ridiculous. He's saying here, actually, he says it later. Let me just wait. So I'm going to read this comment, but just the parts that I quoted. So they said, to your first point, believing in 1 + 1 and gravity are two different things. Every two things are different in some ways and the same in other ways. You have to think about why the difference or similarity matters. And they didn't say. For the thing I mentioned, I said it matters because I didn't choose to believe in 1 + 1 = 2. Like I didn't choose to believe there's no God. They said, sure, we are able to test things on Earth and make theories about it, but what about the things we cannot comprehend, such as outer space? We can comprehend outer space. We just haven't figured it out yet. That's how our theories work, by the way. We get better over time. Our understanding of outer space is better today than it was 20 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. Why haven't we made it to Mars yet? We don't have the knowledge yet. They said, I put my belief in God simply because of our limitations as humans. We don't have all the answers. We may not ever find all the answers we are looking for on Earth, but in Islam, the Quran is that source. I had said, but the Quran has known flaws, but separate from that, the Quran's not giving answers either. Like he said, we don't know about outer space. The Quran doesn't say shit about outer space. So that's not solving anything. They said, there are so many things in the Quran that I don't see how the humans could know. I said, I can help you with that if you want, but they never replied. They said, laugh out loud, you are comparing Santa to God? Yes, same stupid logic. They said, as for heaven and hell, why would it matter if we are a good person if we didn't have consequences to our actions? If someone chooses not to kill, rape, why would it matter? Why did we create a system where we put people in jail? Why don't murderers and rapists walk around doing their thing on Earth and some still walking free? We do put them in jail, but this is missing a very basic point. If you kill and rape, even if you don't go to jail, it is causing negative consequences on your life. We just want the negative consequences to be even greater, and we put jail time for that. If you ask why good people do good things, it's because it benefits us and everything we love, and everybody we love. And another way to say this is, when I do a certain kind of action, it makes friends. When I do another kind of action, it makes enemies. And my life is better with a bunch of friends than a bunch of enemies. They said, when you agree with it, whether you agree with it or not, or believe it or not, that's your choice. But it's how God holds us accountable to his standards, not ours. Suppose there is a God. How do you know what God wants? They didn't answer this, and no reply. This person says, because if you do good without believing in God, it goes to waste. Waste how? All the good things I do are not going to waste. What good things do you do that you think would go to waste if there's no God? And they didn't answer. They said, there is a God, and because of that, you doing good things will not count if you don't believe in God first. So I say that conception of God is stupid, though. This person says, if there was a God, heaven and hell will have to do with being a good person, not to worship, because I can't stand that fact that rapists, murderers, molesters will go to heaven. This person's agreeing with me. That person from earlier, that long discussion I had, long comments. This person, same person, replied again to this person. But who judges who is good? If your purpose is to live life to its fullest, what drives your moral compass in life? So I reply to that. I said, so like if I do good things, I make friends instead of enemies. If I do bad things, I make enemies instead of friends. My life is far better when I have lots of friends instead of lots of enemies. I think that's it for this one.